all of these different ideologies, religions, theories, so on and so forth, they're all different wrappings of the same core truth. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is they're different languages, they're different dialects, they're different ways of understanding and aligning with the exact same goal or truth, which is trying to find the most non-specific generalized way which is just becoming the essence of what you really are. Underneath all the programming, the limiting beliefs, the fear, the conditioning, the patterns, the falseness, the ego, it's returning to that essence of who you are, of what you are. The language I used in the very beginning, when I started my journey at like 15 years old, was I wanted to become my truest self, my best self, my highest version. In Buddhism, they call it enlightenment. In alchemy, they call it sort of creating the philosopher's stone. In Christianity, they call it sort of walking hand in hand with God, or walking in the Spirit, I think it is. In sort of more modern age psychology space, it's flow state or the self. I think in shamanism it's called becoming hollow bone. In sort of normal self-help or self-growth, it's like becoming the best version of you. But they're all the same thing. They're just different ways of understanding them. Now, okay, this is important for two different reasons. There's two different sort of caveats to that specific idea that they're all different languages or wrappings to explain the same truth, the same core truth. One is that we need those different languages. We need those different ways of understanding it so that people who resonate with or understand it in that way can therefore reach that point, come back to that truest essence of themselves, sort of align with or come back to source, God, whatever you want to call it. So that's one way. It's like the different wrappings are needed because each person subjectively needs to understand it, to experience it, to live it in that specific way, in that specific wrapping, for them to have a grasp on it, to experience it. Another one I just thought of now is like, universe and sort of more modern age spirituality. Source, like I just said, becoming in alignment with source or like alignment with your frequency. The other caveat to that, which is a more, I don't want to say negative, but where it becomes detrimental, is if you are devoting and subscribing to one specific of those wrappings, in the sense of it is this way and no other way. This way is the way. That's when it becomes distorted. That's when it becomes detrimental, because in that itself, it has been basically manipulated or distorted by the ego, where it's like, no, it's my way that is the way. And I know because I experienced it and I lived it through that way. For example, I don't know, I think in the past there's been a lot of feuds between different religions, and when it's like one religion says, no, my religion and my God is the God and the religion, and yours isn't, yours is like a fake or a copy, that's when it becomes very detrimental. That's when it becomes based completely in ego. But ultimately, they're both talking about the same truth. If you strip away all the bullshit, all the, oh, you have to do this and you can't do that, and like, you know, blah, 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 blah. When you strip away all of that crap, all the surface level shit that gets piled on top, the core truth is the same. It is a person wanting to have a lived experience of and with God, source, the creator, the origin, whatever you want to call it. But when you start letting ego fall into it, and it becomes no, mine versus yours, when it becomes, you know, this way versus that way, when it becomes this practice versus that practice, when it becomes this is right versus that is right, that's when it gets based in ego. And then obviously there's way worse negative side effects of that, which I won't go into, but I'm sure you know what I mean. But the biggest thing that I want to share, that I've lived through and that I've experienced through lived experiences, is that they're all talking about the same thing. And funny enough, the path that I found that works for me, and if you're resonating with me, if this is clicking for you, might resonate or work for you too, is actually taking bits and pieces from each so that you can find what resonates in each, that allows you to then tap into and experience the state, your state, underneath all the fears and limiting beliefs and so on and so forth, the state of wholeness, of lightness, of authenticity, by being open to these different religions, ideologies, theories, so on and so forth. That's what I found works best for me. I've experienced Hare Krishna, I've experienced Christianity, I've experienced Buddhism, I've experienced Zen, I've experienced flow state, I've experienced psychology. Psychology was the first sort of gateway for me. Religion and spirituality was like, I was very closed off to that in the beginning. But what being open to different experiences allowed me to do was to get a broader understanding, get a realization that, oh wow, these are all talking about the same thing. But what is that thing? What is that truth? And how do I find my way in aligning with that truth? What feels resonant and aligned and good for me and in me? And that's something I'll go into in another video because it's very important. But when you can be open to this idea that it's all the same truth, you can start to, as I said, play with and experiment with and be open to different sources, different languages, different dialects of this truth. And there's a practice I've taken from a specific part of Hinduism, I think it is. I've even learned a bit about like Veda religion as well. But there's like specific practices I've taken from specific religions and specific like ideologies and theories. There are, through psychology, I work on my sort of limiting beliefs, the mental resistances. Through sort of more modern age spiritual breathwork practices, I can work on my physical resistances, and then just certain ways that the truth is expressed or explained in different religions sort of tapped into a deeper part of me than in others. But my point in that is be open to that. Because it's not about subscribing. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to devote. And if you're understanding and you're feeling what I'm saying, then you know that devoting is not for you. Subscribing to one thing is not for you. It's about feeling into, being open with, and therefore taking what resonates. Applying and translating it in your way, and letting it hit and fill and shift perspective and allow you tools and practices that feel good for you, so on and so forth, so you can ultimately release, shift, move, unblock the resistances that are stopping you from you reaching truth in your way. They're all different wrappings of the same truth. It actually reminds me of this, I was in Cambodia and this guy was explaining a business concept to me in a similar way, which he was talking about coffee beans, or was it chocolate? I don't know, let's go with chocolate, it's easier. Kit Kat versus Nestle versus Cadbury versus Hershey's versus whatever, right? What are they? They're all chocolate, but they're different ways of expressing, explaining, presenting, even tasting chocolate. And if you don't resonate with sticking to one of those wrappings fully, wholly, that's not a bad thing. That just means you might need to take a little bit of Hershey's, a little bit of Cadbury's, a little bit of Nestle, etc., so that you can find your unique wrapping of your truth, of the truth. So that's what I've done, and it works. I need to find a way of how to like end these videos. Or do I just cut them short? I don't know. See you in the next one.